Alright, let's dive deep into the Celtics universe because, even in the slow grind of the NBA offseason, there's never a true dull moment in Beantown. And what started as whispers is now beginning to sound like a legit drumbeat. Ben Simmons to the Boston Celtics might not just be a rumor anymore. It's not official yet, but it feels like we're just waiting for someone to drop the Woy bomb and confirm what everyone's been piecing together. Simmons could be suiting up in green very soon now. If you've been tracking this saga, you know, the chatter has been getting louder, whether you're for it or against it. The name Ben Simmons sparks reactions. You've got folks who believe in the redemption arc, the defensive versatility, the ability to guard all 5 positions, push in transition, play make at an elite level. And then you've got the skeptics, the ones who've seen the last few seasons and are asking, what exactly are we getting? And honestly, both camps have a point. Let's walk through this logically. If Simmons does land in Boston, we've got to look at it from a few different angles. What does he offer right now? What version of him can we realistically expect? And maybe most importantly, what does his arrival say about the Celtics' goals for this upcoming season? Let's not sugarcoat it. Simmons hasn't been the guy he once was in Philly. Back then, he was an all-star. He was all defense. He was a nightmare in transition and a matchup problem for just about any team. But since that awkward breakup with the Sixers, things have gone sideways. In Brooklyn, his numbers dipped dramatically. His minutes dropped, his confidence looked shot, and the back injury saga didn't help either. In that first season post-Philly, Simmons played in 42 games, averaging 6 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. That's the stat line. Straight up 666. Not ideal, and it didn't get better. The next season, 51 games. Pretty much the same thing. 6 points, 5 boards, 8 dimes. A little bump in the playmaking, sure, but the impact, still a shadow of his former self. Then came that short stint with the Clippers, where he logged just 18 games, most of which he was technically healthy for, but the production was almost non-existent. 3 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists per game. If that's the version Boston is bringing in, you're not talking about a guy who's ready to be a core piece of a playoff contender. You're talking about a reclamation project, a flyer, a hope that maybe, just maybe, a new environment and a fresh system unlocks something again. And this is where the debate gets real interesting. Because if the Celtics are serious about winning now, about maximizing the primes of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, does adding Ben Simmons make sense? Not unless you're convinced you're getting a major bounce back. Not unless you think Joe Mazzulla can do what no coach since Brett Brown has been able to do. Convince Simmons to be aggressive, to shoot the ball, and to actually own a role that's bigger than just defense and distributing. There is a possible upside here, though. If, and it's a big if, Simmons buys in, gets healthy, and finds his groove, there's a universe where he becomes a valuable Swiss Army knife. A guy you throw out there to run the second unit, push the pace, switch onto every position, defensively, and maybe, under the right structure, even contribute in the half court. Maybe he's not a shooter, fine, but he could drive, kick, and open up opportunities for Boston's perimeter scorers. Maybe he takes some playmaking pressure off Tatum and Brown. Maybe he becomes the kind of utility player that thrives in a role instead of trying to be the star he once was. But if the front office really pulls the trigger on this and it's not about a high-impact Simmons return, maybe that tells us something deeper about the Celtics' direction. Maybe they're seeing this upcoming season as a soft reset. A strategic year to manage salaries, give their stars some breathing room, and gear up for a serious push in 2026, 2027. Maybe they're fine not being elite right now, instead opting to position themselves for a bigger move down the line, whether through the draft, free agency, or future trades. And in that context, bringing in Simmons on a veteran minimum makes a bit more sense. You let him rehab, you put him out there to get some minutes. Maybe he puts up a couple of solid months, and boom, you flip him at the trade deadline for a second rounder or a piece that fits better. It's a classic buy low, sell high scenario. Low risk, potentially moderate reward. But if this is a gap year, if the Celtics are treating this as a bridge season, they've got to be transparent about that. Because expectations in Boston are always sky high. This isn't a city that's going to be patient with mediocrity, especially after coming so close in recent years. And if they do take a step back, fans will want to see the vision, see the plan that gets them back to being title favorites. The only way that works is if there's real communication and real development happening in the meantime. Now, let's pivot a bit Because if Simmons is the swing piece, that still leaves a huge question mark in the front court. Let's be real, Boston's big man situation right now is paper thin. You've got names like Neemias Queta, Xavier Tillman, and Luka Garza floating around. But if you're trying to win playoff series, that trio doesn't exactly scream depth or dominance. It feels more like a preseason tryout for who gets to be your backup center in 2 years than a serious rotation, from what we're hearing. Queta's going to get the first crack at starter minutes. He's shown flashes, no doubt. He's got the size, he's got the energy, but he still feels raw. Then there's Garza. Offensively, he's got some juice. He's got those polished post moves. Can stretch the floor a bit, shoot the three. But defensively, liability, like turnstile levels of defense. That's going to be an issue against pretty much every Eastern Conference contender. Xavier Tillman brings a bit more grit. We've seen him hang in playoff environments before, especially in Memphis, but injuries have slowed him down. He might be the steadiest of the bunch. But still, are we really heading into the season with this being the core of our front court? That brings us to the future, because if the short-term solution isn't on the roster, maybe the real plan is 2026 free agency. And when you look ahead, there are a few names that jump out, but it's not exactly a loaded market. One guy that should absolutely be on the Celtics' radar, Isaiah Hartenstein. He's got a club option at the end of this season, and if the Thunder decline it, he hits unrestricted free agency. That's a real possibility, too, because OKC is about to feel the squeeze from all those extensions kicking in, SGAS Supermax. Chet Holmgren's massive number, JDUB's deal, it adds up fast. And if they're forced to trim the fat, Hartenstein might be one of the first names out. That could open the door for Boston to swoop in. He's a rim protector, he's tough, and he's sneakily one of the better passing bigs in the league. If the Celtics are looking to stabilize their front court with someone who complements the core and doesn't break the bank, Hartenstein might be the move. Now, past him, the options get slimmer. You've got guys like Mitchell Robinson, who could be an interesting fit depending on what the Knicks want to do with their roster. Mo Wagner's a cheaper option, kind of a stretch five with some fire to his game. Adri Ayton's name is floating out there, but you'd have to seriously believe in his bounce-back potential, and that comes with a price tag and some risk. Most of the other guys available are either aging out, stuck on club options, or to rob a bank on right now. So maybe the front office is thinking what a lot of us are thinking. If you're not grabbing a legit big in free agency, maybe you get aggressive in the draft. Use that lottery pick or package it with other assets to bring in a guy who can make an impact right away. Or maybe, and this might be where Brad Stevens is playing chess, maybe they're holding out for a trade. You use this season to evaluate, to test your young guys, to build value in players like Simmons, Queta, or even someone like Sam Hauser. Then, when the right deal presents itself, you strike. And that's where things get really interesting, because Stevens has been more vocal this offseason than ever before. There's clearly a shift happening behind the scenes, ownership changes, organizational reshuffling, and in the middle of it, Brad is stepping further into the spotlight. We're seeing him talk more. We're seeing him get in front of cameras, lay out ideas, respond to speculation. For a guy who was once the quiet genius on the sidelines, this is a new role, and honestly, it might be exactly what Boston needs. Because in today's NBA, your front office has to be visible, has to be strategic, and has to communicate. The fans are smarter than ever. They see through the fluff. They want to know what the plan is, and if Brad is the one delivering that message, then cool, let's hear it, what he's done so far. From rebuilding this roster post-Kyrie era to turning the Kemba Walker mess into usable depth, has been solid. And yeah, you can nitpick the draft picks. Jordan Walsh hasn't popped yet. We're still waiting to see what Baylor and Hugo can become. But that's the draft game. Once you're past pick 20, it's a dart throw. You hope to find a diamond, but most of the time, it's a long-term project. The big wins have come through trades, smart contracts, and cultural stability. That brings us back to the center position. If the Celtics are leaning into this development year, then the battle between Neemias Queta, Luka Garza, and Xavier Tillman becomes more than just who's playing backup 5 minutes. It becomes a legitimate test of who can be trusted when the stakes rise again in a year or two. Right now, Queta seems to be the favorite. He's got the tools, the size is there, the rim protection is promising, but he's still raw, still foul-prone, and not yet conditioned to carry 25 minutes a night. Garza, on the other hand, is basically the opposite, offensively gifted, Sure, he's got the footwork, the shooting touch, the post moves, he can even stretch the floor, but he's a turnstile on defense, and that's not just a lazy critique. Teams hunt him in pick and roll, his foot speed gets exposed. It's tough to see how you trust him in a playoff series unless the matchup is perfect. Xavier Tillman is the middle ground, gritty, experienced, understands defensive concepts. He's played real minutes in Memphis during postseason runs, so he's not new to pressure, but his ceiling is probably the lowest of the three. You kind of already know what he is. He's not going to shock you with a breakout year. So if you're evaluating future potential, it's really between Queta's upside and Garza's offensive punch. And neither gives you true two-way confidence right now, which circles us back to 2026. If this year is about evaluation and cap flexibility, then next year has to be about striking gold. And while the free agent pool isn't overflowing with elite bigs, there are a few names that deserve serious attention. We already talked about Isaiah Hartenstein, and he remains the clear favorite if the Thunder choose not to pick up that option because of incoming salary crunches from all their young stars. Boston needs to be in position to pounce. The Thunder are a fascinating case study in asset management. They've hoarded picks, drafted incredibly well, and locked in their core on extensions. But that window of being under the tax and flexible is shrinking fast. Once the max deals for guys like SGA, Holmgren, and JDUB fully kicking, every dollar starts to matter. And when you look at a guy like Hartenstein, who's valuable but not irreplaceable, that's where you cut from. That makes Hartenstein the perfect available but not distressed asset. If Boston comes with a competitive offer, they could pry him away and plug a major hole in their roster. He'd give them rebounding, rim protection, passing from the high post, and toughness. You don't need him to be a scorer. You just need him to anchor a defense and play smart. Beyond him, though, the options are less appealing. Mitchell Robinson might be the next best name. And while he's a defensive force when healthy, the injuries pile up. He's also not a floor spacer and has limited offensive skills beyond the dunker spot. Mo Wagner is interesting, but more of a third big or bench stretch five than someone you rely on in a starting role. Then there's Adri Ayton, once a #1 pick, now a player in need of serious image rehab. He's still young, he still has the tools, but effort and consistency remain major concerns. If he's really available next summer, it's going to be because another team gave up on waiting for him to get it. Would Boston want to roll that dice? Maybe, but only at the right price. A lot of the other potential targets are restricted free agents or on rookie-scale deals. With team options, guys like Zach Edey, Donovan Clingan, and Kyle Filipovsky will probably have their club options picked up. Jalen Duren and Mark Williams are RFA letters, which makes them hard to acquire unless their teams are actively shopping them. Unlikely. That's why it might make more sense to use the draft as the real path to finding that front court fix. And if Boston ends up in the lottery, they've got a shot to do just that. Now, speaking of trades, one name that keeps popping up in the community is Walker Kessler. Fans are asking if the Celtics can somehow land the Utah big man in a trade. On paper, it's a great idea. Young, cheap, elite rim protector, but in reality, it's probably going to take more than just a Sam Hauser and Xavier Tillman package. To make that happen, Utah's not going to let Kessler go for scraps. They know he's on a team-friendly deal, and even if they don't extend him right away, they have leverage. If another team wants to jump in, they'll need to offer something that gives Utah real value. Whether that's a pick, a higher ceiling prospect, or a combination of both. So unless Boston is willing to part with an actual asset, that door might stay closed. But it does raise an interesting point. Maybe the Celtics should be thinking more aggressively when it comes to acquiring a long-term five. Maybe the front office should be lining up options to turn cap space, expiring deals, and roll players into someone who can solidify the core. And that brings us back to Brad Stevens. There's been a noticeable shift in how he operates. For a long time, Brad was quiet, measured, behind the scenes. But with new ownership on the horizon and the team needing to maintain some level of transparency with the fan base, Stevens has stepped into a more vocal leadership role. He's speaking more. He's putting ideas out into the public space. And whether that's by design or necessity, it's helping to frame the Celtics' direction a little clearer. We're learning that Stevens has a long-term plan, one that involves flexibility, internal development, and strategic additions. He's not rushing into splashy trades just to say he made one. He's not throwing away picks or overpaying for marginal talent. He's trying to thread the needle between maintaining competitiveness now while preserving the future. That's a tough needle to thread, especially in a market like Boston, where every fan has an opinion and every loss feels like a crisis. But Stevens deserves credit for the way he's handled this era. From the tail end of the Kyrie experiment, to navigating the Kemba Walker exit, and now managing the back end of this current roster, he's been pragmatic and sharp. He's kept Boston in the playoff picture without committing to bad contracts or short-sighted moves. He's allowed room for growth without sacrificing standards. That's rare in this league, and yet, he still gets questioned for his draft decisions. Look, if you're picking in the late 20s or early second round, you're basically playing the lottery. Most of those picks don't pan out. You're hoping to find a contributor or someone with a definable NBA skill. You're not getting superstars in that range. So when people point to Jordan Walsh not breaking out yet, or ask why we haven't seen more from guys like Baylor Shireman or Hugo Santos, you've got to remember, development takes time. Those players are projects, they're bets. And for every Desmond Bane or Nikola Jokic that breaks the mold, there are dozens of names we've already forgotten, so patience is part of the game here. Let them cook, let the coaching staff see what they've got. The bigger question now is how all these pieces fit together in the short term. Who's starting at point guard? There's been a lot of chatter about Peyton Pritchard versus Anthony Simons, two players with very similar statistical profiles, but very different reputations. Simons is the bigger name, the more explosive scorer, but when you dig into the advanced numbers, it's a lot closer than people realize. Per 36 minutes, Pritchard averaged 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists while shooting 47% from the field and 40% from deep. Simons, in the same sample size, put up 21 points, 3 boards, and 5 assists, shooting 42% from the field and 36% from 3, so Simons scores more. Sure, but he turns the ball over more, rebounds less, and is a notably worse defender, and that's not even a knock on Simons. It's just that Pritchard deserves a bit more credit. Defensively, Pritchard fights. He's small, yeah, but he's gritty. He competes. He boxes out. He chases over screens. And when you're trying to build a winning culture, sometimes effort is the most important skill. That's why the idea of trading for Simons, a guy who's going to make $30 million, feels a bit forced. Especially when Pritchard is already giving you 80% of that production for a fraction of the cost. If you're Brad Stevens, that matters. If you're trying to build a sustainable roster without diving deep into the luxury tax, these are the margins you live on. Getting production on rookie deals or team-friendly extensions lets you make real moves when the moment is right. So maybe the Celtics ride this out. Maybe they lean into the chaos of this season, experiment with different lineups, give real minutes to Queta, let Walsh and Shireman get reps, see if Simmons can bounce back, and use the data to make a big move in summer 2025. That could mean landing a center in free agency, flipping a few of these young guys for a proven veteran, or even pushing chips in for another all-star if one becomes available. This is the NBA, after all. Everything changes fast. Today's rebuild is tomorrow's title chase, and while this current roster might not be built for a finals run, it's built for evaluation, for decisions, for learning what works and what doesn't. And if Brad Stevens has earned anything, it's a little faith that he knows what to do with that information. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In what could become one of the most unexpected yet intriguing moves of the offseason, whispers around the league are growing louder. The Boston Celtics may have quietly secured the signature of Filipino basketball sensation Kai SOTTO on a 4-year deal. While no official statement has been made by the franchise or the players' representatives, multiple sources suggest that the 7'3" center has inked a long-term contract with the reigning NBA champions. If confirmed, the deal would mark a historic milestone not only for SOTTO's career, but for Filipino basketball as a whole, potentially making him the first full-blooded Filipino to earn a guaranteed multi-year contract in the NBA. The news, still unverified, has sent social media into a frenzy, with fans from Manila to Massachusetts speculating about the Celtics' true intentions. SOTTO, just 23, has long been touted as a promising prospect with a unique blend of size, soft hands, and court vision, though he went undrafted in 2022 and has since bounced around international leagues, including stints in Australia's NBL, Japan's B. League, and a recent spell in the Summer League. Many believe he still possesses untapped potential. Could the Celtics be the team willing to bet on that upside? Insiders say the deal, if real, is more developmental than immediate, with Boston boasting an already stacked roster. It's unlikely SOTTO will see significant minutes early on. However, the franchise may see in him a long-term project, a big man who can stretch the floor, protect the rim, and develop within a winning culture. Think less instant impact, more strategic investment. Still, the silence from both camps adds a layer of mystery. Is this a strategic leak, a misinterpretation, or the NBA's best-kept secret? Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain: the idea of Kai Sotto wearing Celtics green has already ignited imaginations, both in the Philippines and across the basketball world. Keep your eyes on this one. It might just be the start of something bigger. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.